Hello everyone, this is Chaudhary and I am going to cover the topic of video presentation search user interface as part of our Artificial Intelligence Foundation and Application course. We are two members in our group, myself Chaudhary and the other member is Suman. So the topics which we are covered in our video presentation topic, that are introduction of the search user interface, how it deals with the user's queries, what is user interface, its principles, design issues, what are the types of user interface, how we retrieve the information, the process of information retrieval, the applications of search like mobile search, social search, and finally the mapping of artificial intelligence in user interface. So, search user interface is basically the interaction between the user and the computer system or operating systems. Users can search through the content of the website by asking its queries. Users can communicate to the computer systems directly by the graphical user components. It uses the icons, buttons, commands, text-based information. Users can communicate various ways with the operating systems or computer systems. It allows the users to communicate with any human language also, like in natural language user interface. So, what is the user interface? We are discussing the user interface, its methods, how we apply, how we solve the queries of a user, and how it interacts with the users. So user interface is method, or we can say by which the user of a product interacts with or controls software or hardware device. User interface is that part of an application by which the users interacts with it and its information displayed on the screen. User interface principles, how to design, is that it should be simple, it should be consistent and easy to understand by the user. User interface should be user friendly. It quickly accesses to the information which the user wants. There are various types of user interface, but we are going to discuss the graphical user interface, form fill interface, menu driven interface, natural language interface and the command line interface. So first we are discussing the graphical user interface. It has the graphical components or applications by which the users can communicate to the operating systems. It uses the icons or buttons or pointer around which can move to any information, and just clicking on that information it gets its functionality. Graphical user interface is user friendly also and easy to understand. It provides various icons which can users use and interacts with the user interface. The various examples of graphical user interface like Mac operating system, Microsoft operating systems, etc. It provides various functionalities and hence users can easily interact with the graphical user interface. The other is form fill interface. The main functionality of form fill is that it contains the various data items, various choices, various list of options from which the users can select its option or can select its choice among the large storage of collection of data items. It is faster as it provides a faster mechanism to enter the data or to make the choices in the form. So it deals with the filling the applications form like in college forms, etc. and interacts directly with an application. Next is command line interface. It generally deals with the commands or text-based information by which the user can directly communicate to the computer program or operating system. Users need to know some commands from which it can interact with the interface or need some text-based information. As command line interface is faster as compared to the other interfaces, but it needs to that the user should know some text-based commands or some text-based information by which by typing the text or commands it can interact with the interface. Now the natural language user interface. It deals with the human language concepts also. By recognition this concept of human speech, it interacts with the interfaces. It allows the users to interact with the written commands or spoken commands also instead of the computer language. Various applications of natural language are here, like voicemail systems, automated speech recognition systems. We are daily recognizing some natural language processing concepts and interact with our device operating systems also, like Google Assistant we are using in our mobile phones for dealing this user interface. So natural language is a very easy way to interact with the user interface by using our own spoken language, human language, and easily interacts with the interface. So it is very user-friendly user interface. The last one is menu-driven interface. It provides various options, various commands options in the form of a list and displayed in a screen, and we can use among the large number of options we can select any option. The best example of this interface is ATM. In ATM we use this kind of interface. There are no commands to learn or remember in this menu-driven interface. It provides an easy way to communicate with our daily basis programs. Now, the concept of information retrieval we are going to discuss. This information retrieval process is used when the users want to retrieve information from the large storage of database items. When the operations is containing these information queries, we can say, and we want the text-based, we apply the text-based query on the system, and we have the result query in our hands. By applying this information retrieval process, it deals with storage, organization, and access to text, multimedia information resources, and we can easily handle this information retrieval process in the search user interface. Now I am going to hand over this to Suman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chhavi. So moving on to the next part of our presentation, we start by looking at varying usages in user interfaces. Now, the most prominent user interface that we use on a regular basis is a mobile user interface. Now, it comes with components embedded with intelligence, like our camera used for detecting our face while we are trying to take a photo, or using the facial recognition security feature to unlock itself. We often use our phones to make a call as well using Google Assistant or a Siri. Now, there are other activities on a regular basis that we do using the mobile interface. Also, there's social search, which basically helps us in social monitoring of our contacts, providing results specific to user needs, and continue to have a trusted human network. Also, negligible spamming as well. Now, what is the real use of AI in user interface and its design? Now, we explored the same with 3 literature surveys. First one is a paper on user experience evaluation using mouse tracking and artificial intelligence. Now, to give a brief about what exactly is happening in this sphere, we look at clicking on links while we are searching something over Google. The color contrast or the color values for a particular link even attracts or detracts an end user. So this paper was on the similar lines. Another is search, where retrieval of data and visualization in a quick-witted mirror through voice control and artificial intelligence was explored. The paper that we will be exploring in this particular presentation is the mockup development, where creating of mockups, which is an activity done before development, considering a set of knowns and unknowns, is streamlined using AI. Now, exploring some titles and keywords for the paper first. What is a mockup? A mockup is a pictorial or visual depiction of the user interfaces of an application. Now, it is based on certain principles, which are nothing but the usability engineering principles. Uh, but at the end of the day, how do we make an application user friendly? It starts with the mockup development, but what all does it need to be? It has to be effective, it has to be efficient, it has to be engaging, it has to be error tolerant and easy to learn. Not going much in depth about these, but one can explore the same for usability principles and learn more about them. But the question is, why do we need to generate mockups for existing applications if they're working fine? The reason behind them is there are applications and businesses which are 20 years old, 15 years old, 10 years old, and need a revamp based on their cloud solutions. Now, features are very necessary for any software or an application to succeed. But what we tend to miss out is certain times we don't need all the controls in a UI. How do we figure out from a user data that which control can be used for making a particular mockup? This particular paper explored the same, but before we go there, we look at some existing tools and papers that this paper has referred. There are existing tools for creating mockups, which are Balsamiq, Assure, SAP Build, Visio, etc. In this particular uh, image, you can see that how mockups are created on a generic basis. There's also a paper mention that it had gone through about machine learning based prototyping of GUIs for mobile apps. Now, the motivation and importance of this paper was creation of a new app, which is a simplified version of an existing app for 10 or 15 years, maybe. Refactoring and deprecated and unmaintainable code. So there are certain situations when an existing application has a lot of code which are not being used anymore because of the development over time that has happened. Also, this paper mentioned about fast tracking of software development cycle because a mockup creation takes 2.5 to 3 months, which can be streamlined using this particular topic or technique. And definitely, if there is a reduction in time, there is obviously a reduction in cost to company for every organization. And at the end of the day, having a streamlined way of generating mockups makes it consistent for the company or organization to have the same set of guidelines for all its applications. And at the end of the day, definitely understanding the customer based on the consistent UIs that we are designing. And also faster solutions on cloud. The paper used an artificial neural network where end user details or how the application was used over the years have been fed into the system. And finally, depending on the weights and calculations made, the calculation of a particular mockup was taken up and suggested by the system. So the net conclusion for this particular paper was it served the demand for cloud-ready user-friendly applications, optimize the time for mockup creation, which was pretty important for the organization. It also mentioned that the initial time crunch was addressed by 40 to 45%. It reduced the cost to company and also had an early round of customer feedback possible, and that would be like in a very short span. It opened up possibilities for integration with code generator tools. Let's say for SAP Build, it is UI5. So if you design a mockup in Build and if it is integrated with this paper, it will generate a mockup and in turn will also generate the code for the developer to consume and take it forward for further business logic. Now, the applications for usage of AI in designing user interfaces will start with certain questions like, have you met Eva? If you have tried to get a loan or have any queries with HDFC, the chatbot, which helps us out in answering our questions in their user interface of HDFC's website, is Eva. You can ask a question and you get an answer. Now, we use the common term, Alexa, please turn on the music, and it helps us to turn on the music. So user interfaces are going better and you don't even have to interact with them. It is more about the human computer interaction that we have. This is one particular application. We will look into it after we have explored the slides, which helps you develop search-based applications where you want to do a text search or an image search, and this helps you in doing that and implementing your search-based applications. Is your content SEO enabled? Search engine optimization is very important to ensure that your website is there and is recognized and is in one of the top most searches for any end user. And do you ask your assistant to make a call? The assistant I'm talking about is Google Assistant or Siri. And your search efficient and optimized. This definitely is important because the way we use our heuristic search is to define our user interfaces to browse its content is very important. And at the end of the day, we have already touched upon the color of the link being blue. So when we search a particular link, the user interface is uh, of different colors. Let's say when we search for a particular item, Google gives a set of links. The color of the link, that bluish color, it has actually a meaning. It has a color code to it, and that has been come up with multiple rounds of iterations, and that came up using AI and a collaboration of neuromarketing. We explored some literature reviews as mentioned. So it was with user experience evaluation using mouse tracking artificial intelligence. Uh, we also have seen during the literature review that there was a mention for retrieval of data and visualization in a quick-witted mirror through voice control and artificial intelligence. So these are the two papers that were explored. And at the same time, uh, for developing search applications in our user interfaces. This was one library which was pretty interesting that we came across that can be used for searching, and as it is mentioning here, Genia is a neural search framework that empowers anyone to build SOTA and scalable deep learning search applications in minutes. So it's a good application that we found out in our short research for this assignment. Uh, Closing note, this was the work by Suman from Center for Computation and Data Sciences and Chhavi Chaudhary of Center of Excellence in Artificial Intelligence. Thank you, and hope you have liked the video.